The moment changed everything without warning, like a quiet storm rolling across a familiar field. It happened on a warm afternoon in rural America, where the air smelled of fresh grass and the past felt heavier than the sky above. He had come home believing he was strong enough to stand alone, but one soft, trembling whisper carried more truth than years of stubborn silence ever had. It was the kind of moment that presses against the chest, the kind that forces a man to face who he is, who he was, and who he might still become. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that change ordinary lives, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing stories like this to you. Michael Harper had spent most of his adult life running from expectations. He grew up in a small farming town in Iowa, the kind of place where family names mattered and futures were planned before you even understood what they meant. His father, Thomas Harper, believed in tradition, hard work, and legacy. To him, a man without a wife was unfinished, like a barn built without doors. Michael, however, had returned home at 34 with empty hands and a guarded heart, carrying the weight of a failed city life that never quite worked out. He told himself he was fine being alone, but the truth followed him like a shadow he could never outrun. Grace Collins arrived in his life quietly, like dawn rather than lightning. She worked at the local diner just off the highway, the place where farmers gathered before sunrise and travelers stopped without knowing why. Grace had her own past, one shaped by loss, faith, and survival. She had lost her mother young and spent years caring for a father who taught her how to pray before teaching her how to drive. When he passed, she stayed in town, believing God had planted her there for a reason, even when loneliness pressed in during the quiet nights. She met Michael by chance, serving him coffee on a morning when he looked more tired than most men twice his age. Their connection did not rush or demand attention. It grew slowly, built on shared silences, small smiles, and the comfort of being seen without explanation. Michael helped his father on the farm, repairing fences and feeding cattle, pretending that routine could fill the hollow places inside him. Grace would sometimes walk the long road near the fields after her shifts, letting the wind carry her prayers. Eventually, their paths crossed more often, and something unspoken settled between them, something warm and terrifying at the same time. The real struggle came from fear. Michael feared repeating his past mistakes, feared disappointing his father again, and feared opening his heart only to watch everything fall apart. Grace struggled with feeling like she was never enough, like she was always the one left standing while others moved on. Faith told her to trust, but pain reminded her how costly trust could be. Still, something kept pulling them together, as if God himself was gently refusing to let go. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the fields and the cattle moved slowly across the pasture, Michael stood with Grace near the wooden fence behind the farmhouse. His father had been watching from the porch earlier, his expression unreadable. The weight of expectation hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Grace sensed the tension, sensed the history wrapped tightly around Michael's shoulders. In that fragile moment, she leaned closer, her voice barely stronger than her breath, carrying the words his father had spoken so many times before, reminding him of what he lacked, what he was supposed to become. Michael did not respond with anger or defense this time. Something inside him softened, cracked open by exhaustion and honesty. Instead of turning away, he looked at Grace with a clarity he had never allowed himself before. He realized that strength was not found in running or resisting, but in choosing to stay, choosing love, choosing faith over fear. In that quiet space between them, with the land stretching endlessly behind and ahead, he understood that home was not a place or an expectation. It was a decision. From that day forward, things began to change, not dramatically, but deeply. Michael started speaking honestly with his father, confronting old wounds and unmet expectations. Thomas, hardened by years of responsibility, slowly learned that love could exist without control. Grace became part of the rhythm of the farm, her laughter echoing through the fields, her faith grounding Michael when doubt crept in. They faced challenges together, moments of uncertainty, financial strain, and the lingering fear that happiness might still slip away. But every challenge strengthened what they were building. The turning point came during a Sunday service in a small white church at the edge of town. As the congregation sang, Michael felt tears rise without shame. He understood then that Grace was not just her name, but the gift she had brought into his life. He was no longer running. He was standing exactly where he was meant to be. Before the story ends, we would love to hear from you. Comment below and tell us what love, faith, or second chances mean to you, and whether this story reminds you of someone in your own life. Near the end of summer, with golden light spilling across the fields, Michael realized that the whisper that once felt like pressure had become a promise of partnership, of shared burdens, of faith renewed through love. The farm no longer felt like a place he was trapped in, but a future he was choosing freely. Grace stood beside him, steady and certain, not because life was perfect, but because they were facing it together. If this story touched your heart, if it stirred something inside you or reminded you that love can still find us when we least expect it, please like the video, share it, and stay connected with our channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive. And as the sun set over the American fields, Michael Harper finally understood that sometimes the greatest act of courage is not leaving to find yourself, but staying and allowing love to find you right where you are.